Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Pod Leaders. Welcome. I am very pleased to be joined by the wonderful Jules Reichel today. And we've known each other for a little while now, actually, a couple of years since our first introduction post T2RL. When we were actually working the same market for a little bit, but she was so welcoming, and we've hit it off for the last couple of years. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce Jules and her story through aviation. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rach.
It's lovely to have you. So I think we should jump straight in, actually, because you've got quite the story to tell from your origin story, shall we call it? So, how did you step into this world?
Into the aviation world, I guess.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Well, I think it was the classical childhood dream, right? Age 5 or 6, looking up into the sky and thinking this is what I'm going to do one day. But I grew up in very rural Germany with no airport in sight, and I had a really deep passion for finding out more about the world, learning about cultures. I was good at languages. So after my baccalaureate, I moved to London as an au pair. And I was in West London, and Heathrow literally called me.
It was right there. Yeah, absolutely.
So I joined BA as cabin crew in 1998, did my training there. And then I had a real pivotal moment one day after I went online with, what was then called a cabin service director, CSD, who had been flying donkeys years. And in my naivety, I asked him, tell me, how do airplanes fly? And he said, I don't know. It was literally the making of me that I thought, hold on a minute, I can't work with people that are not interested in the technology, the physics, the aerodynamics, how is this thing built? And that was really, as I said, the pivotal moment of how I then really committed to a career in this space, and went on to do my pilot training.
Amazing. It's so important to have these moments. Sometimes you can look back and really pinpoint these moments and think, gosh, that really leapfrogged me forward into the choices that you then made, which were becoming a pilot. I mean, that is a amazing feat to do as well. And was the reasoning behind that really to understand the hows, ifs, and whys of why this is happening?
Yeah, I guess, if you break it down, there was probably I really wanted to push myself academically. I really wanted to achieve something.
Right.
I was already in BA, so I had already got a sense of what I thought was really good about the company and what could be improved even at the tender age of 23. I don't know, this doesn't work well. And I guess there's a little bit of status. But really, the overarching theme was just the symbolic freedom of flying, learning to fly, the demystifying how does all of this work, how does the technology work, and also knowing I will be in a career that will always push me and always challenge me, which in retrospect, I look back at my friends who are still doing it. I have to say I probably have the more challenging career, not from the obviously, when things go wrong, they have to perform and all the rest of it, and they have to relicense and do their training and all of that. But from the perspective of the freedom of just going where I felt the next interesting thing was, it was probably the right thing that it didn't work out for me.
Okay, fine. So you went through training and actually that wasn't the career path that you decided to take in the end.
It was less so that I didn't decide. I was in my training, so I was about halfway through my flying training when September 11th happened.
Yeah.
And BA had made really bad experiences during the first Gulf War with what was called the junior jets, who were fully trained. The company had pumped a lot of money into the cadet training scheme, and then they couldn't give these young pilots jobs. So as a result, when September 11th happened, we were suspended very quickly. And then eventually a year later, we were officially made redundant.
Okay.
And BA's expectation was that I would go back into the cabin, which I had no interest in doing. You know, I would have been happy to stay and go into flight ops or dispatch, anything really. But they were very keen on me staying in cabin services to wait for the industry to unlock for us to take out our cadetships.
Right.
And so, and then medical stuff happened. So had I been licensed and had I been online, that medical stuff would have been fine. But as a trainee, that then ruled me out of the game.
Gosh, that's a really tough, I mean, goodness me, that is a really tough minute to kind of reassess what you're going to do, especially as such a driven individual.
I was distraught, right? So
yeah, I bet.
yeah. And as I said, there's this element of status, right? So we knew we were the 23 out of 30,000 applicants that year that had made it. I knew it had taken me 4 years of constant work, right? When the other girls were reading Hello magazines in the galley at 4 a.m, you know, I was doing aptitude tests and arithmetic, you know, GMATs. And so it was like a loss. It was like a death for me, which actually probably only since probably in the last 10 years have really got over that. You know, my ego was dented, my dream was shattered. I felt really at a loss because that's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this is such an important topic to talk about. So I'm so thankful to have you speaking about this, because a lot of people go through that. You know, it's a little bit unwritten, and sometimes it's a bit of a panic stations to find what's next, or really internally kind of go, okay, and then does life feel a little bit like second fiddle? But I know you don't feel like that anymore, because you are absolutely flying in all sense of the word. So what did you do next to help yourself onto the next step?
So I I was lost, right? All I knew was that I didn't want to serve tea and coffee and chicken and beef anymore.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
fulfillment of my life.
Yeah.
And so I literally thought about what is the job that I can do without having a degree, you know, because, you know, I was half a pilot. Where other people had gone to university, I didn't have that support from my family. So I had to stand on my own 2 feet. So I literally went into the job that I thought, okay, I love people and I love talking, obviously, and I need a lot of money to at least continue my hobby as a private pilot. And so I went into recruitment and did 3 or 4 years, I think it was, in recruitment. And I found, you know, it's a really hard industry. And this was in the early 2000s. So, you know, economically, things were going well and I had great clients. But again, I felt this sense of not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I placed myself with my best customer company.
Oh, great.
A company called Sullivan. And what I really liked about them is that, you know, it's an analyst market analysis company who do growth consulting for companies. And they were looking for a sales leader in aviation, aerospace, and defense. And to me, this was like, oh my gosh, yes, you're right. This is academic. This is, you know, I really have to step up my game here. And so I joined them.
Amazing. That is, well, I mean, what a step to change it. Thank you for acknowledging recruitment's hard, because it is hard.
It's tough. As you know, I then did another round.
Later.
Later on in my career, and I loved building my business. But to anyone listening to this, you know, recruiters like you, Rach, work incredibly hard, both for the clients and for the candidates.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I walked away from it was because I got really fed up with my product walking out of the door and not accepting offers, right?
It is one of the hard bits of it, I would say, when you've invested quite a lot of time. but as I always say, it has to be right for both parties. But it's very frustrating. Yeah. So Frost and Sullivan, that was quite a stint. You were there.
I was there for quite a long time,
Yeah.
and helped them build the DACH region. So Germany, Austria, Switzerland
Yeah.
was underperforming. But we basically had no clients at all in aviation, aerospace, and defense. So that was my first mandate. And then I got promoted to European sales manager. And that didn't go too well. So I left Frost and Sullivan under a bit of a cloud.
Fine, fair enough, fair enough. I love how honest this podcast is. It happens all the time, and nobody ever mentions it. It is a really, really. It can be really tough if you get into the wrong environment, and sometimes it's not even their fault. It can be just a perfect storm of personalities that cause this.
Yeah,
This.
and I think one of the so so the idea of women being successful, women being in men's jobs, I had always during my time at BA, I had kind of laughed about that a little bit. I got that a lot. I mean, I was 22, 23, I had long blonde hair, I was a stick insect. And, I used to go and choose a working position in the cabin that allowed me to sit in the cockpit. I knew all the calls, I knew every single movement of the hand by the time, I went into my training because I'd spent hours, watching and
Yeah.
listening in the cockpit. And, but I always got this kind of attitude, especially from the older captains, especially
Mm.
from the ex-forces guy. What, you? Well, don't be ridiculous. And, I have to give a shout out to my friend Tina Pedersen here because she was cabin crew as well. And she is the most beautiful, stunning Swedish lady with these enormous eyes. And she's a captain now. She's been a captain for many years now. And the two of us, we support each other a lot. But what struck me was, and you kind of expected that because it was aviation.
Yeah.
You kind of expect
Just the world. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but when I went into what I considered a very high value brand organization, I was really quite shocked to be hit by that. Not from leadership and not from management, but from my peers. And it
Mm.
was my promotion that triggered it. There were
Right.
a lot of guys that thought, well, I should have got that job. And it became very, very nasty.
Oh, bless you. Okay. So a couple of big hits there so far, and then a big job came.
Then I went to Gartner.
Gartner.
And Gartner, I think, really was, what was the making for me. A friend of mine essentially headhunted me into the company after I said I'd never work with analysts again. I had the most wonderful boss at Gartner, a lady called Sue Davis. We're still in contact now.
Lovely.
And she built me up. I mean, I was second time in my life. I was really distraught. What am I doing wrong? What is going on? And my boss at Gartner, she was phenomenal. She was kind, she was patient. It was this real high performance environment, especially on the sales floor. But she mentored me and she looked after me. And so I kind of found my feet again. And I was working in UK government. I had great accounts like the Foreign Office, Royal Mail Group. I learned so much. Gartner provided amazing training, amazing mentoring. I really met some fantastic people there. But there was no focus on travel and transportation, and there was no
Say that is
flight.
a different industry for you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a great and very important part, but it's just different. It's outside of your passion. Yeah.
And I think this is kind of what makes me stay in the sector. There were moments in my career where I thought, this sector isn't treating me well, I'll leave. I come running back every time.
I've got concrete shoes this industry. I swear, yeah. It's honestly, it's people come and I love keeping people in it as well because it is a really specialist skill to be able to understand this space. But
and I think you hit on an important point here. When I spoke with senior leadership at Gartner and said, why don't we at least commercially look after airlines separately? The viewpoint was it's just another high transaction environment. They're no different than banks. To which I responded, having been in the cockpit and having been in the cabin, if the bank goes down, no one dies.
Yeah,
So not
absolutely right. Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's when I made the move to join Richard and Mike and Ian at T2RL, which was then, a small startup out of a tiny, tiny room in Burnham.
The
And
wonderful T2RL,
I loved
absolutely.
it. I
Backbone to
loved
our
the room
industry,
and I
right?
loved it.
Absolutely. So you were with them for nearly 5 years within sales and BD. So as you say, they were just really beginning within that data side of things, understanding the space. Well, not understanding the space. They're all well known within the industry. But you were going out and finding new clients for them.
Yeah, I mean, the three founders were obviously well known, as you said. They've
Yeah,
been
of
around the
course. Yeah,
block, they've negotiated many deals, they've consulted, etc. But this was the time when they decided to grow and to scale, to productize. And I was, apart from the CTO, I was, the first person to be formally hired. And we had a whale of a time. I mean, it was startup, right? And it was lots of bad language and lots of shouting and lots of pulling together and late nights and early mornings and, accommodating Air New Zealand on one part of the day and then talking to Delta on the other part of the day. And it was exhilarating, really
yeah.
exhilarating. And when I left, I think we had grown to about 30 people in that time. And yeah, and I still consider it my work family. So
Yes,
it was,
absolutely. You can definitely see that when you see everybody. Everybody knows Jules, and I know it was through your whole career, but I'm sure that Tito Royale was a really good and lovely memory for you. That's good. So then a move into the vendor space.
yeah, primarily driven again by the nagging, niggling. You don't actually know what you're talking about. How
I
can you be selling this
know that
stuff?
feeling.
Number one, and number two, I'd become a mum, and
Right.
the pace at T2RL as a single mum, it just didn't work for me anymore. I think I was close to a nervous breakdown every evening because the demands were just too high.
Yeah.
And I had, again, a wonderful client in HP. Cindy Forschlaner was my client at the time, and I called her one day and said, Cindy, I can't. I really would like to come and work for you because you're also a working mom. The commercial pressures are also on you. And so she hired me, and we moved to Dallas to the head office.
Oh wow.
My
Okay.
2-year-old and I, yeah. And we spent 3.5 years with HP, very much, again, looking at what was then, NDC new, what can we build, who can we sell it to, what's the addressable market, what's the messaging. Yeah, and I had
Fantastic.
a wonderful time at HP. I did.
So cultural change and as in cultural physical change and to more of the vendor side of the market. Well, firstly, how was that move to Dallas? I know a lot of people would love to know about it. There's so much relocation in our industry, which I love,
Yeah.
and we're all quite fluid in where we need to be. But how did you find that, especially with a little one?
It was one of those massive bucket list items. I want to live in America, and HP and made that happen for me, and I will always be grateful. So on the positives, HP had an amazing relocation package. I was looked after. I literally had to get on a plane, including my dog was flown over.
Oh wow, fabulous!
Yeah, they really looked after us. So the move itself was really easy. We had a relocation consultant who helped us with the paperwork, helped us with settling down, finding a house, all of that. It was a star. The settling down in Dallas as well was fantastic. Texans are incredibly warm people. We've lived now here in Germany, and I think I know less people after 5 years than I knew after 5 days over there. We were just absorbed into the neighborhood, and
So nice.
my daughter was in full-time childcare, so we made friends with that. And then obviously I had the guys at the office, which was fabulous, really fabulous. But for family reasons, I needed to come back here.
Okay. Yeah.
I say here to the UK. And so after just under 2 years, I relocated us back.
Okay, fine. So a running theme of we're moving into kind of the vendor space, supplying into the airlines. I mean, your black book must be expansive at this point, but then you moved to sorry, and then you moved to Radix.
I did.
Yes.
So again, it was one of those wonderful situations. Old colleague had gone to Radix. Ron Perry, the founder, had just sold it to private equity company. And he said, come with me, we're looking for VP marketing. And I said, well, I'm not really a marketeer. He said, no.
Say, what?
You are very good at this, he said. Okay. But I think what strings throughout my career is something you and I feel very passionate about, and that is identifying people for their attitude and their aptitude, not their skill and experience. And throughout my career, I had opportunities like that where somebody said, you are perfect for this, even though you don't know that you are. And so I have often jumped, and sometimes I got it wrong and sometimes I got it right. So yeah. And this was the days before ChatGPT and Perplexity, right? I really had to pull my socks up, plus commute to Florida on a monthly basis. So
wow.
My girl was at home with a nanny, and 1 week a month I was over there. And
you would go over.
Yeah.
That's really hard as a mum, and as as somebody going into a new space. Actually, how did you find that well, leave the mum side to one part, because that's just, we all know that would have been hard, and well done for persevering. But how did you find that transition into the marketing side?
I loved it.
Oh, did you? Great.
I loved it. And, even in my role now, I obviously have a little bit of sales and a little bit of business development and a little bit of marketing. And I still love it because it's it's thinking time, it's creation time, and then when I put on my sales hat, it's execution time.
Yeah.
So TTRL had equipped me perfectly with the knowledge around how to deal with, and Frost & Sullivan for that matter, to deal with market segmentation, how to identify the right customers, and then how do you tailor your messages to that. What was so interesting at Radix was that we had been bought by the private equity company, and we had a turnaround to deliver. So the private equity firm had placed a new CEO who had hired his C-suite. And then the gentleman who took me with him didn't stay very long. He was on a consulting basis. So I ended up reporting to the CEO directly. And that was a different dynamic for me. There was a little less understanding around, I also am a mum. I am working evenings, which was fine because she was so tiny. She was in bed at 7:30. But the travel backwards and forwards and the being excluded because everybody else was in Orlando. I was in Brighton.
Right.
And it became evident without the link of the person that had chosen me, I was missing out on too much,
Yeah.
And that's no reflection on the guys,
No.
that are obviously now at Sabre. It's just the nature of the beast. Me being on a different continent in a different time zone, the classic water cooler conversations, I couldn't have them. I had to squeeze them 5 working days every month. And then OpenJaw came along with a very tempting offer to build their business together with the newly hired chief scientist for their customer data platform, which was really novel at the time. The first time we really had AI land in the customer journey technology, and only commuting to Dublin, so that made a lot of sense for me. So
absolutely. Just before we jump into that, I'm really enjoying the we've just done a different podcast which we're going to publish soon, about the difference between sponsors and mentors, and I can just see there's been some really great sponsors in your career journey, and that person having your interests at the forefront of their mind in a room that you're not in.
and that goes right back right back to my very first job at BA. You know,
Yeah.
I think one of my natural skills is networking and
Yeah.
connecting, and not at a superficial level. And I think that's genuinely why I enjoy sales, because I really feel I can do something for my client, and they know that I don't ask for an order unless it's something that can really help them. And so, even as a very junior cabin crew member, because I was so honest and I was so ambitious and I was curious, and I think I probably, to this day, I'd like to think I was the only cabin crew member ever to resign with the chief pilot.
Wow.
Because through my networking and my 4 years there, people had started to sponsor me and to look after me. And, you know, my examiner, um, little shout out to Captain Orchard, if you're
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
my instructor, Captain Larkin. They, like, to exactly your point, they looked out for me. You
Yeah.
know, um, they made sure that I studied, that I had the help I needed if I needed it. They just the encouragement of, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, you're doing your cross country. Good luck. And really messing up in my final flight test, for example, right? Of going, okay, you know, that didn't happen. Try again.
Absolutely. The
And I
encouragement.
think that is down to that sponsorship, right? I really
So
want you to
good.
succeed.
It's so important, isn't it? I mean, there's to have that support network immediately around you just is so wonderful and will enable you to do it again and to make the right choices. Excellent. So, OpenJaw CDP work. That sounds really. So you were building a new product,
Well, I wasn't, because
but yeah,
the salesperson. But yeah, I worked with a fantastic, the chief data scientist. And OpenJaw at the time was looking on diversifying their product. So they obviously had the IBE, but they were looking at bringing in AI, customer data platform, and bot technology. So they went on
cool.
a bit of a hiring spree. They hired myself and another lady to run those two products, whilst Ollie Ammon continued, obviously, with T Retail. And again, that was such a homecoming. You know, I loved the OpenJaw team. I had worked with Paul for many years, obviously, and so for me, it was a homecoming. Loved going to Dublin. My daughter loved going to Dublin. The team there was great. You know, my daughter was hopping around the office and being part of it all. But COVID hit, and
Yeah.
OpenJaw, owned by Travel Sky, had to make some really tough decisions. And so we were let go very quickly into the pandemic. And
In a really terrifying minute.
yeah, thankfully, financially, I was in a place where I was like, okay, you know, then I don't
Yeah.
work for 6 months, whatever. And actually, having been very much loving but absent mother
Yeah.
for the first 5 years of my daughter's life, oh my God, we celebrated the pandemic because
It's,
we
do
were
you know,
able
it
to be
really made some families.
yeah, yeah. You know,
Yeah, that's
our nanny
good.
left us. She wanted to go back home. I was able to say, okay, fine, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm home now. And
Yeah.
I think it was the time where my daughter and I really gelled, and where I could sit back. It was a hot summer. We lived in Brighton. We spent the whole summer on the beach, right? And it was actually on the beach where this idea formed of follow your dreams, Jules, you know, run this executive business that you've been wanting to
Yeah.
run for a long time. And yeah, so I'm a great believer in just whatever life serves you up, you know, just find the silver lining, just get on with it, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the next best step forward? Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you know, and again, I think whilst it's more at a philosophical level, or a life skill level, I learned that in flying. You know,
Yeah.
you plan your route, but sometimes the wind changes, or sometimes the airfield changes the direction of the runway, and suddenly you're,
Yeah.
I need to
What's
make
next?
a decision. And you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
made a decision many times, the wrong decision, and I made probably the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, totally, I agree. So then you wanted so then we went back in time a little bit, picked up the recruitment hat again,
Yeah.
popped that on. So it is quite fortuitous that we're speaking today because it's Thornton Gregory's 10-year anniversary today
Oh,
of starting.
congratulations.
Yeah, so 10 years we've been going, and you also put on your self-employment, start your own business hat in exec search. How did that all feel?
Yeah. Overwhelming. I remember, I launched the website, I launched the brand, I'd spoken to lots of people, but still, so this was day one, and I sat there with my empty notepad.
It's
Oh, what do I
terrifying, isn't it?
do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I did what I do best, and I reached out to people and I told them about what I'm planning on doing,
Yeah.
etc. And then within a very short space of time, a gentleman got in touch with me and said, "You've launched the company I wanted to launch for a long time. We had a mutual friend.
Ah,
Why don't I come in on the business?" And he had been in executive search for 20 years, so that obviously gave the whole thing a lot more credibility. We ran
great.
the company together for 3.5 years, and we separated 2 years ago. The pressures of making payroll,
Yeah.
client hasn't paid, how we're going to pay the salaries. We had 5 people at the time. Um, and it created tension between us, obviously.
Okay.
And so we were constantly pumping money to make do with the shortfalls because clients hadn't paid, or yeah, it
Which, if any clients are listening, really cripples small businesses. So please.
really does.
Yeah.
And I think, so we had contracts with big organizations like
Yeah.
BASF, HP, and for a procurement guy to just come and say, well, we give you 90 days payment terms, like, guys, we can't work for you. The
Yeah.
business has decided that we're the right people, but you've got to meet us a little bit here because we can't put that investment up front. So, and as you know, working retained is always a bit of an uphill struggle
It
anyway.
really is. Yeah.
But
Okay.
we built a strong brand in battery. So my business partner was a material scientist. He had come out of the oil and gas industry, and so
Wow.
so battery and travel tech were the two areas that we worked. And again, I hated the fact that I knew nothing about chemistry. I knew nothing about how batteries are produced and how it works. So I did a qualification called the Battery MBA.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you throw me into something and I'll find a way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's so cool. I love the fact that you see an area that is a little obscure for you, and you need to, like, understand it all. I love that.
Yeah,
How
I
you're
think
built.
yeah, that's just me, and I know you and I have talked about things like reconditioning the brain,
Yeah.
neuroplasticity, etc. And it's become very much on vogue now. But when I did my NLP practitioner 15, 16 years ago now, it was right before the time I had a very bad riding accident. And I was told I would never walk again because the injuries were so significant, including nerve damage and all the rest of it. And I just wasn't having it. I mean,
Yeah.
again, my network, I was surrounded by high performance rowers, living in Henley, having come out of the sport. And I had the most amazing people around me, from carrying me to the shower to cutting my lawn and making sure that somebody comes every 2 hours to make me tea, type of thing. And so
What a wonderful community.
yeah, the rowing
Amazing.
community, it really is a fraternity, and if you're lucky enough to have been part of it, it is really something very special.
Yeah.
Thanks to those people, I never gave up at that time. And so when I kept staring at my foot, for about 3 months, I kept staring at my foot going, you will move, you will move.
Yeah.
And then one day my toe flipped, and I was like, oh my God.
Like a
It's
complete
probably the
eureka
second
moment.
happiest move of
Fabulous.
my life after finding out that I was pregnant. Um,
Yeah.
and And that's when I learned that neuroplasticity is right. And so that's when I went into that, I want to understand how that works. And so that's just, if something catches my interest, I want to understand it.
Well, I think you're quite fabulous, and we are all stronger than we know, I think, is probably the tagline of that. So Endava. So I'm loving this journey, by the way. So we've gone right from hands-on learning, the people side of it. You can really see the traction of how things have evolved into the marketing side. Then we've got entrepreneurial aspects thrown in, which came back again, and then we're at Endava.
Yeah. So an old colleague of mine from HP called me and said, "I'm about to take a new job and I need you."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm having a really nice time here. What are you talking about?" And so Endava at the time was planning on really building out a portfolio for the aviation, travel and transportation, but obviously with a major focus on aviation. And so this gentleman went off and hired a couple of people, what he called his A team. So a couple of ex-HP people, somebody from TCS he had worked with in the past. And we were, we came all from a product background and we came into a services business. And so it took quite a long time for us to figure out, okay, well, what is it that would differentiate us from a TCS or Coforge, and then there were bits of product hanging around, and then there was this legacy around payments. And so we were just getting to the point where we thought, okay, actually, we now know what our portfolio is.
Know what the deliverable is.
Target are. And then Endava had a really terrible earnings call in September last year. And literally within 3 hours, the messages arrived, meeting with HR tomorrow. And that was that.
Really tough, really tough. I mean, these businesses are on a flip of a coin sometimes on their direction. And that was really tough. I know that it was hard because you really got to understand everything at that point.
And we were such a close team,
I was going. You're a really good friend, aren't you? Yeah.
Taking bullets for each other.
Yeah.
All the time, really working on something together. Seeing the star on the horizon. We can really make something of this, because I think this is probably where I get excited. When other people see chaos or they see worries, I see order, right?
Yeah.
And things fall into place, and then it's like, my flying instructor back in the day used to call me the Rottweiler. It's like, don't get in her way. She will get it done.
She's going to get there. Yeah, absolutely. Come hell or high water.
And so and not worrying about, if you can do the full journey, just do where as far as the light of the car will shine the road, right? That's how far you will go. And I think
next best step. Yep.
That is crucial. Yes, you can, but only deal with what you can deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when the sacking came from Endava, I mean, obviously my boss who had brought me in, to this day feels he owes me a job, and we still talk once a week.
Bless, he's so lovely.
He is. So loyal, and again, I've been so blessed with the loyalty of people, including Richard at T2RL, who supported me after my pelvic injury, through to the guys at Gartner. So loyalty is really important, and I think if you're honest and if you're authentic, then you gain that loyalty from other people.
Absolutely. Honesty first, always, right? I think that comes actually from being in a people business. Sometimes that recruitment part of you, and this is why we work on our best outside of larger recruitment businesses as well. In the positively changing lives is our tagline. Like we really, really want to make sure that we're doing the best by all parties, and otherwise it's not really worth it. It's not, it's not just bums on seats for us. It's making sure that we're putting the people in the best possible positions to show the best of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And I think, what you touch on there is sort of the nail on the head on why I couldn't stay in recruitment. So, we handed our portfolio to a bigger firm, great. I would have, sat very comfortably probably, but the ethos was very different.
Yeah.
How are you going to make your 800,000 this year? And that didn't feel authentic to me anymore.
Exactly. And as a heads up to any future clients, work with smaller businesses because they care about what they're doing. So
Exactly, right? Because you are the brand, and
exactly. You live
then
by it.
your
Yeah.
collapses.
Yeah, exactly. So where are we now?
So now I'm at Retailaer, and the journey here has been a really interesting one because I was able to. So I came out of Endava, and the day they switched off my systems was akin to the day when I got the phone call from BA to say we're standing you down. It was wow.
Yeah.
Okay, who am I? What
Yeah.
am I doing?
Where do I go? Yeah.
And then within a very short space of time, through mutual business contacts, I was put in touch with Anders, the founder of Retailaer. And the chemistry between the founders of the company and the commercial board advisor, I've known him for a very long time. So again, there's a lot of personal equity, a lot of trust. And in the end, as you've seen from the announcement, we decided to create a job for me and for me to be able to do this full time. And as with Endava, I kind of feel, and maybe that's my age as well, that all the worries, oh my God, am I good enough? Oh my God, what have they done appointing me to this job? That is going away.
Yeah.
At the same time, especially now talking to you, it really becomes clear in my head. Every station I did gave me new skills and gave me new knowledge. And I think when you're in the latter parts of your career, you have these moments where you suddenly think, oh, it's all clicking together.
Absolutely. It's all pieces of puzzle that's brought me to this space.
Yeah.
I love doing these conversations. It's really fun, isn't it? Just to have a think about all of these different parts of it that have come together.
Yeah.
And I know that retailers, I mean, the products is fantastic, and Anders and you as together is a force to be reckoned with. So it's going to be really exciting to see your journey through this. It's only just begun.
It has just begun, and again, I having had the time to think. I think had I lived in England, I would have been under real pressure to find the next job and just get on with it.
I agree.
Here in Germany, the system is very different. You get a lot of support when you lose your job, provided you have paid in to the system.
Yeah, of course.
But I was able to turn down jobs. I was able to say, no, thank you. This isn't for me. This is not making my heart sing. I would only do that for the status and the money.
Yeah.
And I know me. If I don't identify with, with what I'm doing, then it's going to be short-lived. And that's not good for me. That's not good for the company. It's not good for my clients, and it's no good for my reputation. So, having the time to think, and I think I told you I wrote 2 cookbooks in the first month.
I know, I love that.
Because I was like, it's have to get out of my head, and I now have the time to do it. So bang, that's
so good.
And then
are they for sale?
No.
Oh, they're for you. Okay.
No, so one of my friends is a published author and voice artist, so she's in that space, and she said, "Come on, they're beautiful to read. We'll get them published." And I said to her, "No,
they're just for you.
It's not about that,
For your family."
And also the pressure to already have followship. By the time you go to a publisher these days, they don't look at how good is the book. They look at how good is the book, but also how many people have you got on Instagram.
Fine.
Okay. Oh
my
God. And I tried the whole Instagram thing, right? And it did my head in.
It looks like a dark world, that, yeah.
It took the joy out of the cooking and the baking for me.
Oh, fine.
Because it was only about the content in the end.
Fine. Yeah, that's not fun.
And whilst I was able to split my time, that, it was one of those, great, done that now. Tick.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So it gave you the minute to be able to just really think about the next project and what kind of environment you wanted to
Yeah.
be in. That's
And
really good.
the environment, that is the key point, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I think what's really important when you make career decisions is you need to think about what type of employer serves me best.
Yeah.
Definitely made the mistake it's a few times in my career to go after the bigger paycheck and go, I'll take
Really
that
filthy.
opportunity that pays 10 or 15,000 more.
Absolutely.
Whereas now, as I said, I turned down a couple of roles. Funny enough, two of them because they were based in Germany, and I realised that really I'm not a very good German.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I decided I really need to stay in the English speaking environment and stay with my
fair.
network, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but also, you know, when things haven't gone well for me, it's always when I've been in big corporates, red tape, process, sign offs, you know, all. And I find that a real energy sucker because I am a doer, I am that Rottweiler. And if you put a leash on me, then
Yeah.
I'm getting really antsy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's such an important message for our listeners is just around really understanding. The first thing I speak to anybody from C-suite to whichever level you're at is, do you understand what environment you thrive in? Because
Yeah,
it can be, you know, the Celias and the Amadeuses are very different from a vendor environment that's trying to break into the industry. So, you know, really understanding what makes you tick, because otherwise you'll be 3 months and absolutely miserable and nobody's winning.
absolutely. And
Mm,
again, it's a real mindset question, you know. Do
mm,
you see a mountain of, oh my God, how are we ever going to get this thing in the market? Or do you see a lake of opportunity? Let's jump
yeah,
in, you know?
absolutely.
See what
I think
happens.
we both would know which ones we work well in. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, Anders is, I think, in terms of our capabilities, we match each other really well.
yeah, great.
Um, and there's a lot of respect for each other and there's a lot of trust, you know, there's a lot of credit upfront, you know, with for both parties. And yeah, and I mean he's built an incredible product. It's
Yeah,
differentiated, you know, and for me that was the most important thing. Does the boss fit? Does the environment fit? And is it a platform, a product that I can articulate in a differentiated way? And all of those three boxes were ticked. And
absolutely.
when he said, "Come on board," I said, "Yes, sir."
Yes, please. Where do I sign? Absolutely. And I know I think we were perhaps talking about coming back and really telling us a little bit more about Retailaer when things have kind of aligned with diaries and things. I know that everybody would love to hear a little bit more about it from the horse's mouth, as it were. But and we haven't even got onto horses yet. I know that's
And
for
if
another
Richard
day.
is listening to this, you know, let's not.
Yes,
We'll get really grumpy.
absolutely. Absolutely. Jules is a rider, but yes. Anyway, so wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for taking the time to run through that with us. It's I think just there's so many running themes of just finding those sponsors, making sure when you get those hits to keep going, have tenacity, take that next step, and really understand your environment and what makes you tick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would probably throw in, you know, the base level of resilience.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, anybody in the early parts of their career or people like me who are now coaching their children, you know,
Mm.
resilience, you know,
You
and
gotta
what
have
does it break into? You know, a bit of confidence, a bit of trust, a bit of faith,
yeah.
knowing where you're going, but the ability to just get up, you know. I have a really good friend of mine who, you know, she's a medaled athlete. You know, she's a world record holder. She
Wow.
is, you know, world champion. You name it, she's done it. You know, published author. And she said to me when Endava happened, I'm not worried about you, because if there's one person that's going to get up again, it's you. I said, well, it takes one to know one.
Okay.
How many times, are you injured, and how many times do you get your nutrition wrong, and you just get up and you show up again. And I think that's the one message that I'm giving my daughter over and over and over again, just take the hit, get up, dust yourself down, and go again.
Absolutely. Hallelujah to that. Thanks, Jules. We'll speak again soon. Thank you.